Aloha, welcome. This is Natasha. So for today's video, I am going to be taking one of these Sizzix and Tim Holtz dies, and I'm going to be creating 4 cards with the one die. These dies are all, I'm sure you can see, it's all very Christmassy kind of dies. So I am making some Christmas cards. So I'm going to be using the first die, the background die that I showed. It's called the Nordic Winter, and I'll be using that on all the cards today. So I'm going to start off with my panel here. It's a Nina Solar White panel. I'm going to be blending on some Distress Oxides with my blending brushes, and the first color I'm using is the Picked Raspberry. I'm going to come in next with the Tumbled Glass and blend between those two using my blender brush again, and then I'm going to be doing a Cracked Pistachio. I will blend between the colors just to get a really nice even blend and to kind of create that in-between colors. Sorry, okay. And I did want to, when I first ordered this die, this Nordic Winter die, I was super excited to create a bunch of cards with this die because it's so versatile. You can create a whole bunch of different designs with this one die because it's a background die. The 4 that I'm showing you here today, there's even more that you can do as well. Okay, so here's my panel all dried. I did take some iridescent watercolor and I'm gonna spritz it with a little bit of water, or hit it with a little bit of water, and then take my paintbrush and I'm gonna just be doing some scatters or some splatters. I am using a Tim Holtz glass mat, so it's an easy cleanup for that watercolor, the iridescent watercolor. Okay, I also spritzed on some water on the panel, and then I ran that through my die machine with my die cut here. Okay, so when I remove the die, it's gorgeous. I love that color blend just with all the different wintry characters in that die. But majority of the dies or the positives stayed in the die. So I just took a press and seal and I pressed all the little pieces onto that. And I'm going to hold it on the side for the next card. Okay, so here I needed to figure out a way to, I wanted to make it white behind the characters, but I didn't want it to be stark white. So I used a vellum that had a wood grain pattern on it, and that came out perfect. And I didn't want to disturb the piece by putting a sentiment. So what I did was I took my card base, I stamped and clear heat embossed my sentiment on the bottom, and I'm just going to be adding my die cut piece on the top above it. Okay, and I'm just going to be trimming off the excess there. All right, and that's basically it for this card. Simple, beautiful. The colors just reminds me of like, I don't know, a very modern Christmas. Okay, so let's move on to the second card. So here I am going to use stick-it adhesive. And if you've never used stick-it adhesive, it's a double-sided sticky adhesive that comes on these sheets. So what you do is you remove the backing on one side, you put your card down on the sticky, and then I use my bone folder, but you could use your hand or whatever, just to press firmly so the adhesive sticks to your card or your cardstock. Okay, and I'm going to trim it out, and then I'm going to pull off the release paper on the other side, and that leaves your whole panel sticky. Perfect for the technique I'm going to be doing here, which is an inlay technique. Okay, so I cut out the same die with some black cardstock. I'm going to be placing that down onto my card base. And the good thing about stick-it adhesive is you can move it around. It doesn't stick permanently until you really press it. So I usually, at the end, I'll put a piece of paper and run my bone folder over the top just to make sure that everything stick down good. Okay, so I'm going to be taking the positive pieces that came out of the panel that I had created before, and I'm going to be inlaying them into this panel here. Okay, so there's the finished product. I did leave some of the black pieces actually stayed in place when I pulled it out of the die, so I left those as well. And then I'm just going to be adding some sequins in some random spots, and this is just some iridescent sequins that I had laying around. So I'm just going to use that in a couple of random places, and I didn't want to cut up the card with putting a sentiment. Just like the first card, I put it on the bottom. So this one I wanted to just use the full panel, and I'm going to leave it as that. And you know, it's a Christmas card. I'm sure the recipient will know that it's a Christmas card. Okay, so we'll move on to the third card. So here I'm using some Avery L inks. I'm going to be using Sea Glass, Aquamarine, and Mermaid. And again, I'm going to be using my blender brush to apply the color onto my Nina Solar White cardstock here. Okay, so I'm just gonna cover the entire panel with this sea glass. My thought process was to make this look like a wintry night sky. So I'm gonna come in with the aquamarine, and I'm gonna be just kind of adding it around and trying to leave the center with the light sea glass color. Okay, and then I'll come in last with the mermaid. And then I'm gonna do a reverse. I'm gonna go backwards all the way to the sea glass because it does kind of make a very harsh line there. You see the very harsh blending. So I'm just gonna go backwards and blend it all out. Okay, and then when this panel is done and dried, I did heat it with my heat tool just to dry it off a bit. It was really saturated with ink. I came in with My Favorite Things stencil, and this stencil is called Snowfall, and I'm just gonna be putting my inked background right onto the stencil. I did flip it over and add some tape just to hold it in place there, and then I put tape on the front panel as well. Okay, so my thought process was to take some Versamark and press the ink in through all the little snowflake pieces, and then add some weathered white embossing powder from Ranger. And it didn't catch a lot, you know, a lot of the snowflakes didn't catch very well, but that's all part of it, makes it look like it's snowing. So all the pieces that I had cut out from that black panel, the previous card, I saved that in a little container, and I'm going to be using those. And I also cut out of some white cardstock, some Hill border die cuts. That's from Lawn Fawn. So I cut one piece out of a shimmer white cardstock, and the other two is a textured white cardstock. So just going to be adding it with some liquid adhesive. I'm going to be using this Paper Smooches stamp to add my sentiment. And I don't think that this stamp set is available because Paper Smooches, I think, is going out of business, which is really sad to hear. I do like a lot of her products. Okay, so I am placing my image in my stamping tool, and I'm going to stamp out my sentiment with some black ink. And I did add all of my little silhouette pieces, the reindeer, the Christmas trees or the pine trees, and the houses, all within the Hill border dies. And I'm going to be just adding some Spectrum Noir shimmer pen. Just gives it a really nice sheen. Okay, and then I'm going to be adding that to my card base, and that is card number 3. Okay, so let's move on to card number 4, the last card in this series. So what I did was I took a Nina Solar White cardstock. I am taking a damp baby wipe, and I'm just getting the cardstock damp. I am going to do a I'm going to take this die, and instead of running it through like a die cut, I'm going to run it through like an embossing folder. I want to emboss this paper with the design. I don't want anything to cut out. So I did put my embossing pad, and then I'm going to put my top plate and run it through. And that came out beautifully. So nothing's cut out. It's one solid piece, just embossed. And I'm going to dry it off a little bit just because it's still damp from the baby wipe. Okay, and I'm gonna take this Paper Smooches die, Season's Greetings, and I'm gonna die cut that out of some black cardstock. Okay, and so I did take my panel off camera. I forgot to record it, but I spritzed it with some gold not in gold embossing, sorry, some golden spray. And I added some foam adhesive on the back because the panel's pretty warped because of all the water that I had put and all the liquid that had gone onto the panel. So it's a gold mist, not a gold spray. I don't know. My brain was not cooperating. Okay, so adding that panel on to my card base, popped up. Gorgeous shine. It looks very Christmassy, very white and snowy. And I'm going to be adding this little die cut here, and that die cut is beautiful. It works so well with this card. I did actually cut out 4, and I stacked it 4 times, so it is pretty layered. I added a couple of clear and white sequins to the card, and that is it for this card. Simple. It came out so beautifully. I'm gonna do a quick, I don't normally do this on my videos, but I'm just gonna do a quick show of the 4 cards that were made with this one die. So here's the first card with the ink blending and the iridescent watercolor, and the second card using those pieces from the first card to inlay, and then this card using the in pieces to make this little scene card here. Okay, so I hope you really enjoyed this video, this tutorial. I hope you give it a try. It doesn't have to be this particular die, but something like it. I'm gonna put some still shots here of the 4 cards that I created with this die. And yeah, follow me over on social media, Nwang Designs. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and like this video. Leave me a comment below. Let me know which card you like, which card really caught your eye with this 4 card series. Okay, mahalo, and I'll catch you on the next video. Ahuiho.